Okay, we'll start anytime now.
I'd go ahead.
Wausau! Ladies and gentlemen, we're in Wausau, and let me tell you, it's awesome. What do you know?
From the Grand Theater in Wausau, Wisconsin, it's Michael Feldman's What Do You Know from PRI, Public Radio International. That's John Tooley on piano, Jeff Hammond on bass, Clyde Stubblefield on drums, and I'm Jim Packard. In this hour of What Do You Know, UW Marathon County biology professor Arnie Sally and special musical guest Fat Function. Support for What Do You Know comes from Public Radio International affiliate stations and the Public Radio International Program Fund, as well as the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Support is also provided by the Boca Foods Company, makers of lower-fat meatless products. Boca burgers, dinner sausages, chicken patties and nuggets, and breakfast patties and links are available in the frozen section of grocery and natural food stores nationwide. Boca, the taste will change you. On the web at bocaburger.com. Now, the man who would have taken Rib Mountain and made a giant Eve, Michael Feldman.
Thank you very much. And there is no chronic wasting among the Boca.
No, guaranteed not.
That's the good news. Very healthy herd of Boca this year.
That's right.
We're very, very proud of it. Almost Boca season, isn't it? I think pretty much. The Boca hunters come up mostly
December
from
1st.
Minnesota and Illinois and trap those Bocas. Well, it's great to be here in Wausau, and I feel like I'm here all the time, actually. People say, I haven't been back here since '93, but I don't believe that. Because in Wisconsin, every time you have a group of 6 or more people, one of them is from Wausau. And inevitably, he's the bartender, so it works out really well. It seems to me like every bartender I know is from Wausau, and they're very generous people, so I think it's a good selling point for Wausau. Just the people you meet over the counter. Or whatever they call that thing. The rail, there's a rail,
The rail.
and there's some drinks on it, I don't know. The bar, I guess is what you call it. So, and because, a Wausau bartender, the third one's on the house. Which is not true in all localities. So if a guy says to you, I'll get that one, he's from Wausau. And it's a good, very nice thing to know. So Wausau, of course, where people from who find the pace of life too quick in Mosinee come to live eventually. Just over Wisconsin's Mason-Dixon line, Highway 29, as you know, divides the state into up north and those SOBs in Madison. I'm one of those SOBs from Madison. Thank you very much. But if you look at the map here, it's a little bit confusing because Highway 29 is a dividing line between north and south. Really, the north starts here. Wausau is clearly in the north, but the Rothschild is in the south. The south of the Mason-Dixon line. And Rib Mountain, see Highway 29 jogs up there on 51, and before it heads west towards Abbotsford and Colby. And Abbotsford, by the way, is in the north. Colby is in the south. Because our Lyle, who actually claims to live in one of those two, Abbotsford, I think went to school in Colby, so he's it's like a mixed thing there. Rib Mountain is in the south, clearly in the south. Mosinee is in the south Wisconsin, Rothschild. You have to go all the way up to Brokaw and Nutterville, really, to start heading. Little Chicago's in the north. Go figure. You can't. It divides the city, actually, too, because actually the village of Weston is divided by the Mason-Dixon line here. So half of Weston is north, half is south. So I know that caused some local problems, I would think. The industrial park is in the south, but Jelinek Avenue is clearly in the north. So you work it out yourselves. You live here. It makes a difference, I know, because people have different feelings about the rest of the state when they're up here.
When compared.
Yeah, and it's really not fair because everyone up here is from Illinois or Minnesota. And they blame us, and we're actually part of the same problem that they are. So, whatever. We're only a bottle of Corbel and a snowmobile away from Rhinelander, too, so that's kind of... Which is where, legendary spots. We used to go to cabins up north from Milwaukee. I'm from Milwaukee, so give me a break. Eagle River, Tomahawk, Lac du Flambeau, and those places, and come through Wausau. And this conjures up. This is the beginning of cabin land in Wisconsin. Where right now a guy from Chicago is severing his fingers with a hatchet, trying to chop wood, and being rushed to Wausau Hospital. So inevitably, this happens once every 8 minutes. Anything more than a fingertip, they got to go to Marshfield Clinic because they can. They can reattach there. They've had some success with that. So guys come here to get away. Some have forgotten what they're getting away from. But they're still here, and there are actually guys living in the woods now who think Hirohito is still the emperor. So. But you get a mix of, hunters, fishermen, recreationists, and secessionists, actually, and a few militia guys, but not like in Michigan or anything. And, of course, the Ed Thompson 10% Club, they get. Well, that club really changed hands in a hurry, didn't it? Then you get the retirees. You get some year-round retirees, too. Are some of you those year-round cabin? Getting snowed in the first couple of years is kind of fun, right? Third year, you're thinking about Boca Raton for 2003, right? But you can still get a nice little cabin up here for $435,000. And $430 if they take the trees off first, But that's with everything, including a water frontage, only a short drive on a county highway away. So that's really a nice little cabin. You like that. Wausau is the safest city. It was voted the safest city by somebody. I don't know who, but they felt very safe here, whoever it was. And the police chief himself said, you have to really try to be a victim here. We're not saying the victims are to blame, but pretty much they choose to be victimized. Otherwise, it's perfectly safe. He said, if you're an argumentative guy who likes to drink a lot, you could be the victim of an aggravated assault, but the average person is very safe. So, this, of course, assumes the average person is not an argumentative guy who likes to drink a lot, which pretty much a stretch, but that's what he said anyway. So, Wausau, where they cleared the forest and insurance sprang up. Kind of an interesting thing. By the way, Wausau Insurance has kindly agreed to suspend all riders and deductibles for the course of today's show. So, for the next 2 hours, you have no pre-existing conditions, and there are no acts of God. So, congratulations. But hurry. Marathon County is also the biggest milk-producing county in Wisconsin. It's and there's a lot of milk produced in Wisconsin, which make it. I would think that would make it the biggest milk-producing county in the galaxy.
In the galaxy.
I think there's a county that has more milk-producing anywhere?
I've not heard of it.
Jupiter or Uranus? No, of course not. It's not going to happen. And if you got cows, you got methane. So this is an important. For years we've been focusing on the milk, and that's all well and good, but it's the methane is the fuel of the future. So, huge untapped resources here, except for the occasional Bic lighter, farm kid with a Bic lighter. As an energy source, this will be the heart of Saudi Wisconsin eventually, when this methane is tapped, and the Vandergeest will be sheiks. Colin Powell will be shuttling up here and trying to, Defeated the Casino Hotel Convention Center, so it will not be Viva Las Wausau. You have to find other ways of exploiting people who can least afford it. I think there must be ways of doing that. And, the idea is to keep gambling where it belongs, in the churches and the taverns. Bingo and pull tabs, right? What else do you need, really? It's worked for years. The occasional lingerie show, that's really all you need. And you don't need Wisconsin's Wayne Newton singing in the lounge. That really don't need that at all. Besides, once they end up building the casino on Rib Mountain anyway, it's just a short hop to get there, so be Viva Rib Mountain, Anyway, the parking ramp will be the big draw. You don't need a casino. I'll tell you, a lot of people are curious as to what $20 million will buy in a parking ramp these days. But you better decide quick if you want to put a hotel on top, because you can't really just drop a hotel on a parking ramp as an afterthought, I don't think. You need to...
Pre-planning.
Pre-planned. Thank you, Jim. Isn't pre-planning redundant, though?
As I think of it, yes.
Chronic wasting, obviously, a topic in discussion up here. Like they just noticed, these guys have been drinking all these years. Naturally, they're chronically wasted. What do you expect? And now the deer, too. The 30-point buck now just drops dead at your feet, ladies and gentlemen. From natural causes, but you can still take them. That's the good news. And still a 30-point buck, let's face it. And as for the meat, it's generally known that if you put it in a sausage and give it away, it's perfectly safe. So remember, guys, donate your heads, please. It only takes a minute on the tailgate with a good hacksaw, and it makes a difference. That's all the news that isn't from Wausau. Oh, there's more, though. There's more, but we can't get to it all, and it's just nice to be here. Thanks for having me. I do like this today's paper. Hunter takes a stand. This guy he's got like deer legs hanging out of his garbage, and they wouldn't collect it. And so he stuck a sign. It's Mike Lenzer of Burnham Wood, who has really the deer legs are sticking out of his garbage can. He's standing next to it, and he put a sign there that says, "You can eat it, but in the garbage, they don't want it." Think about it. So I like it. So it's been very thought-provoking, and I think that's an interesting question. Well, we've got a lot of good show for you today, so let's get to it. Arnie Solly is joining us here. He's a professor at UW Marathon, and he wears a host of hats, ladies and gentlemen. He's joining us right now. Professor of biology, zoology, and phenology. Ladies and gentlemen, Arnie Solly. Hi, Arnie. How are you?
Wow.
You were worried about it. It said in
I'm
the paper
worried.
here
I'm
were
excited.
worried about.
You know, I'm just so excited.
don't-
It's like my wedding night. I just don't know where this is going to go.
Well, hopefully it'll go better than that.
It'll go
Arnie.
better than that?
Yeah, it says like his guests are worried about him in
Yeah.
the paper here. So Radio Wise guy. I'm getting worried. Michael Feldman's too quick of a wit for me.
Actually, they got me wrong because what I was worried about, you wouldn't understand my jokes because they're Finnish Toivo and Eino jokes.
Oh, Toivo and Eino.
The Norwegians have problems with those.
Yeah,
and I wasn't sure whether a Jewish boy could understand Finnish jokes.
Oh, you think I'm Jewish?
I thought so. I wasn't sure.
You know, I get that all the time. I'm Hispanic.
Oh, you're Hispanic?
Right. They changed it to Feldman because they thought I could get ahead in business.
Well, yeah.
Took a Jewish name. So.
You know, that's what Tommy Thompson did. That's how he got elected.
Yeah.
All those people up north thought he was a Finlander. You know.
No, he's not.
Yeah,
Though.
he's not. No.
Yeah, we'll get to those Finnish jokes and all that stuff now. Yeah. You know more about the sex lives of trout than even trout do. I think. Well, how did you discover all that?
Well, I did my master's and my doctorate studying trout on the Brule River. The Bois Brûlés up in northern Wisconsin.
Yeah, the beautiful
stream. Yeah, Wisconsin's got wonderful trout waters, and the Brule is perhaps the most famous stream. It's the River of Presidents because Coolidge had his White House there.
Yeah, right.
And I think Grant was there and Eisenhower. Well, I did my master's studying age and growth on rainbow, and then I became interested in looking at the territory behavior, and feeding behavior of young trout.
Yeah.
So I designed this box. It's like a coffin that I could tow in the river, and then I could set it up on pipe legs. Yeah. Or I could lower the front down, because it had windows in the bottom and front, and I could lower the front down and lay in there with my head down like this.
So you were laying in a coffin in the
I'd lay in the coffin in this river. And then
Is this while you were a professor or before you became a professor?
Well, it was before I came here.
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit crazy to be a professor. And
so but not to lie in a floating box in the Brule, though. That's
no.
Fairly
well,
normal.
this was sort of the training for that. Yeah. But I try to observe spawning in trout, and it's very difficult because they don't like to do it in the bright light. They wait till
I'm the same way. Actually.
You are the same way?
I don't know about you.
Well, I lay in this box for hours, and the female trout swims on her side, and she cuts a red. So the red is a nest that is made by the female.
She cuts a red?
She cuts the red. She swims. Can I use my hands like this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, she cuts this red swimming on her side, and then the male comes in occasionally and...
She cuts the reds, though. Is that an expression among trout? Or what?
Well,
is that like
she swims.
In the hood? Is that the way trout...
on her side, and the gravel gets carried down.
Where does it cuts the red? What does that mean?
Well, to cut a hole in the bottom of the river.
So that's called cutting the red.
Yeah, it's called the red. It's the REDD.
I'm going to use that in my
you
everyday
have a college
speech.
degree or not?
We didn't study the red, no.
You didn't go to college then, huh?
So she's swimming on her side.
She's swimming on her side.
What's her